So Bungie used biomedical engineering to prove once and for all that trans women are women, and in the process, wrote one of the most badass characters in all of Destiny 2. If you're new here, I'm Sushi, and in celebration of Pride Month, we're talking about the stories of a few of the queer characters from Destiny 2. So if you recently completed the Final Shape campaign, and you were wondering why Mara Sov referred to the new destination vendor Micah-10 as a guardian of great renown, then don't worry, I got you. Let's break it down. Calling Micah-10 a new character is actually a little misleading because she is one of the very few characters whom we have lore about her life from both before and after she was resurrected by the Traveler, with her name first mentioned in the lore as far back as Destiny 2 Vanilla. However, the bulk of her early history comes from her dedicated lore book, Your Friend Micah Abram, that released alongside the Beyond Light campaign. This lore book is a collection of letters that 10-year-old Micah Abram wrote to the Traveler while she was settling into her new life as part of the Eventide colony on Europa, a settlement started by Clovis Bray that would eventually lead to the development of the EXO program. After the first few months of her life on Europa, there's a large gap in our knowledge on her life, but what we do know points to an extremely traumatic and lonely childhood. Micah's fathers, Wesley Abram and Dr. Hector Abram, were both researchers who were part of the Bray Tech program developing EXOs. Both men were eventually turned into EXOs themselves, presumably against their wills, following Hector's public denouncement of and resignation from the program due to Clovis Bray's unethical and sociopathic methods of research. The exact ramifications of this on young Micah Abram is unknown, but this means that at best, she spent her childhood on a desolate planet with robotic versions of her fathers to raise her, who likely had large gaps in their memory about her due to the nature of being turned into an EXO. And at worst, she may never have seen her parents again after they were turned into EXOs, and was left to be raised by a colony of strangers who her own father compared to cultists. During her time in the Eventide colony, she would befriend then Cade 1, who spent time with her while her fathers were working and helped her cope while she was, in Micah's own words, struggling to understand her identity in so many ways, presumably referring to her identity as a young trans woman, as well as her future as an EXO and the prophetic dreams she was being sent by the Traveler as a child. Micah entered the EXO program when she was 17, and though the reason is unclear, we do know that she had in fact transitioned to female while she was still human by this time. It's possible that she was forced into life as an EXO like her parents were, but personally, I believe that it was a voluntary choice that she made as a result of the prophetic vision she had had of herself as an EXO. Now, the process of becoming an EXO isn't easy, and Clovis Bray sacrificed dozens, if not hundreds, of lives of test subjects in his pursuit to perfect the EXOs. The human psyche was incompatible with fully mechanized bodies and had to be carefully programmed with human needs such as hunger, thirst, and a sex drive in order to prevent a fatal condition known as dissociative exomind rejection, or DER, which is when the human mind would reject and become hostile towards its EXO body, resulting in violent outbursts and total brain death. So what does this mean for Micah? Well, basically, becoming an EXO was the ultimate gender affirmation, because without a body that her mind fully believed was its own, she would have suffered and died from DER. After becoming an EXO, Micah was reset 9 times before eventually dying and being resurrected by a ghost on Earth. She would go on to become a legendary member of the Six Coyotes, a band of guardians who were the first to ever patrol the Cosmodrome. She would also take on the moniker of Den Mother of Ghosts, protecting her pack of unpartnered ghosts while they searched for their guardians, which is a role that she continues to hold when we meet her in the Final Shape. Most interesting of all, however, is perhaps her unique connection to the Traveler. Long before she was ever resurrected, Micah was sent prophetic dreams by the Traveler and felt compelled to speak to it as a child. And now within the Pale Heart, she is able to feel, hear, and interpret memories and visions directly from the Traveler. Through Micah, this is the closest we have ever come to the Traveler speaking directly to us, and it has led to some incredible insights and breakthroughs within the lore. For longtime players and lore junkies, finally getting to meet a character from the written lore in-game is kind of like meeting a comic book hero, and I really hope to see Bungie continue to bring characters out of the written lore and into the game. I also, of course, have to give props to Puya Mohseni, the talented trans-Iranian voice actress who has done such an incredible job of bringing Micah-10 to life. Honestly, there is so much about Micah-10 that we could speculate on, from her possible connections with Maya Sundaresh, to her role as a new speaker of the Traveler, to her relationship with Cade. But I just want to close with a quick note to everybody who has had a problem with Bungie featuring an openly trans character within the story. Clovis Bray himself approved or provided a female EXO exo body for Micah when she entered the exo program. Mind you, this man was referred to by Dr. Hector Abram as being worse than past dictators, motivated purely by his own ego. So just know that if you still refuse to acknowledge Micah-10 as a female character, you are canonically a worse person than one of the most despicable, psychotic characters that has ever been written into Destiny's story. So maybe reconsider your priorities a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video enjoyable and informative. And if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and follow me on Twitch to catch me the next time that I am live. And I will see you next time.